Are you ready to get the hydrofacial glow? Loved in 87 countries across the world. It's not a facial, it's a hydrofacial. Now available across the UK. Visit hydrofacial.co.uk to find your nearest location.
I'm the upper class rapper with How Do You Do, a hippity hop and a boobity boo.
A very important news flash, girls. I need to talk to you. I was talking to Dee the other day on the phone, and she suddenly told me it was snowing outside in one of the hottest days of the one of the hottest days of the year. She went, "Oh my goodness, it's snowing." I said, "Dee, no, surely not." "Yes, it is. It is. It is snowing. I can see it out of the window." "Oh, wait a minute, it's not coming from both windows. How strange." It was Blossom.
Yes, and I knew that because the Carry On film I did called Carry On Behind. There's a field that they use for every carry on film behind Pinewood, and it's Africa, it's Spain, it's everywhere. And we were in bikinis and we were sitting in chairs with lovely Windsor Davis, and you couldn't see, but our feet were sunken into the ground because it was so slushy and wet. And then suddenly it started to snow. And we were blue, so they were spraying us with a kind of cream makeup to stop us looking blue. No. And I kept saying, "Will you stop shivering? You look ridiculous." Stop. And I was 20, just come out of drums. I was just really scared. Anyway, the snow came and they went. I thought, well, now they'll stop. And the floor manager came over and said, "Are we all right?" And then I said, "Oh, we couldn't just stop." He went, "Don't be ridiculous." I said, "But it's snowing." He said, "Yes, it's blossom. It's blossom from the trees. For goodness sake, get over it." And honestly, I was frozen to that chair for 2 hours.
I remember years ago when I was doing Hollyoaks, and we were filming, obviously again 6 weeks ahead, and we were filming, and it was absolutely freezing. And I remember looking at the whole crew. They were there with big hats on, big coats, all of that lot. And I'm there in a bloody mini skirt and a little top. And I came out and I was doing my lines, and I was absolutely shivering. And the director said, "Debbie, can't you act warmer?"
Look warmer. I know.
Oh my God.
It's
hysterical.
Ridiculous.
No change
so
there.
Funny.
No change there.
Darling, thank you for coming to that gig on Sunday, girls.
It was a sensation. The people there were amazing. Yourself, Lavoie, Lindsay Lusardi's amazing children. I mean, the list went on and on. It was amazing.
Thank you. It was so great actually to be there, and also they raised quite a lot of money with the auction.
For that
as
amazing,
well.
and it's an amazing charity.
Back on track. I know. Leslie and Arma Khan. I mean, they're fabulous, aren't they?
Yeah,
amazing. And it's all for the service. How they rebuild their lives for them.
Yes.
It was so beautiful.
So beautiful.
Lovely. Anyway. I loved it. And Dee sang really well. It was lovely to see Harriet, and we just missed Sherry, so we sort of kind of just went, "Hi, Sherry." We didn't
know,
even though you weren't.
By next time, we'll do another one in September.
Oh yeah, good. Brilliant.
I was actually out with a young man having lunch. So
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Are you talking about your grandson?
Yes.
Oh.
We got you. We
got
you.
In my life.
We have actually our guest today is a very, how can you explain him? Diverse character. He's an actor, he's a compere, he's a producer, he's a writer, he is an expert in money. And he's also the son of the great playwright Terence Frisby, who wrote There's a Girl in My Soup. We are proud to have on my friend Dominic Frisby. Hi, Dom.
Hi, Dom.
Hello, Debbie.
Hello, darling.
Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
Well, girls, I have known Dominic since, was he 12 or 13 when I met you?
I don't know. I would have been possibly even younger, Debbie. You were obviously appearing in Dad's play, There's a Girl in My Soup. And I was a young... I came and met you in the theatre in Richmond that overlooks Richmond Green. You know, that lovely theatre there. And I saw you in There's a Girl in My Soup playing the feisty young girl.
Marion,
yeah.
yes, just brilliant. I mean, what was it like growing up in those days with your dad? Because so many big stars were in those shows, weren't they?
Yeah, it was John Stride who was in your one, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So I never really knew who John Stride was, although I gather he was, quite a big deal. It would have been, when would this have been?
1981.
Okay, I was going to say early 80s, and he was quite a big TV star then. And he had been in one of Dad's plays with Prunella Scales, who was obviously quite a big name. And then when Dad's 65th birthday came along, I thought, because I'd seen their names next to each other on a poster on Dad's wall in his flat all my life, I thought, oh, I'll sit them next to each other because they know each other. And little did I know that apparently they despised each other.
I love it. It's gossip. That's so fabulous.
Yeah. Soon after, after that wonderful education that you had, you became an actor. How did Terry feel about that?
Well, he never really minded. He was always, as long as I enunciated my final consonants and my T's and so on, he was quite happy with whatever career I chose. The important thing was that I spoke properly.
Of course. Can I ask you, when did you start feeling the sort of performing comedy vibe? Because you've done comedy, and what was it? Was it early in your life? What happened?
I was always the sort of funny guy at school, if that makes sense, and I'd always make everyone laugh. And but my sort of grand plan was that I always wanted to be a writer, and the best writers, Charles Dickens and William Shakespeare and so on, according to my thinking at the time and my little bit of research, had all started out as actors. So I thought, well, the best way to become a good writer is to start out as an actor and learn how actors think and learn, what makes good scenes and so on. So that was my logic. And I went to, my mum was half Italian. So I did Italian and drama at Manchester University. So that was sort of, half tribute to mum and half tribute to dad. And then I didn't know what to do next. And so I just went to drama school and became an actor with this sort of long-term idea that I'd become a writer. But then in drama school, again, this is probably my father making me sound my final consonants or something, but I was always the best at radio. Whenever we did radio, I always came top in the class. And it was the only time all the other students were nice about anything I'd done. Otherwise, they'd always be really rude. And the teachers always go, stop trying to be funny. And then I left drama school, and, we made a little tape at the end of the radio class, and I sent it round all the voiceover agents. And I just got a voiceover agent within a week. I didn't know this, but this was you might have been aware there at the time when there was a great falling out within the agency Rhubarb, which was the biggest agency at the time. And the girl who ran Rhubarb, called Jolie Williams, took half her clients away and went and started a new agency called Yakety Yak, and left Rhubarb with half their empty books. And I happened to have emailed Rhubarb, and this guy called Stephen Chase, or Stefan de Montignac, I was never quite sure what his real name was. But he said, I'm going to make you a big star, and got me this, signed me up straight away. And the horrible, it's a very ageist industry, but voiceovers, if you're young, 20, 21, and you can halfway read, you'll just get loads of work. And so I just within a week of leaving drama school, I got my first voiceover job, and you're really treated very well doing voiceovers. You're given the royal treatment, and I sort of quite like this. So I sort of accidentally fell into doing voiceovers. I was spoiled very young.
Wow.
So that's how all that happened. And then I'd written this song called The Upper Class Rap, which was, there have since been loads of upper class rappers, but I was the first upper class rapper. And I was at university with a guy called Alex Hardy, who had since become a music agent. And this would have been about 96, 97, something like that. And I said to him, I've gotten this song. We should release it as a Christmas novelty single. Because do you remember in those days, there would always be a funny Christmas novelty single that would get to number one. And he said, oh, go and do it at my brother's club. And his brother was a bloke called Malcolm Hardy, who you may know was a sort of bit of a legend in the comedy circuit, no longer with us. And he had this club called Up the Creek in Greenwich in southeast London. And it was the open spot night, and everyone would go and boo off the open spots. And then they'd have a headline act who that night was Ricky Grover, who was a big name. And the guy before me was an act called Hovis Presley, who was he was very funny, and he's no longer with us either. But it was this sort of very lyrical Lancastrian who did these, quirky poems and stuff. And they just weren't having him in South East London. They were all shouting at him and booing him. London was a lot more tribal then than it is now. And, but he was really good. So he sort of stood his ground and he wouldn't get off. And so there was this sort of standoff of things being thrown that lasted about 10 minutes. And then Malcolm said, right, the next actor is my brother's mate. Here he is. It's his first time on stage, Dominic Frisby. And he called me Fraz because that was my sort of nickname. And so I went on and it went really well. And they had a thing then. If you did a good gig, they gave you a booking straight away. It was it's not like that anymore. Yeah. So suddenly I found myself doing stand-up comedy. So it's quite accidental, really.
What was your rap? Can you give us a little burst of your rap?
I'm the upper class rapper. Well, how do you do? A hippity hop and a boobity boo.
Thank you.
I love it. Your career is extraordinary. I mean, you were a compere as well. That's right, isn't it?
Well, yeah. The reason I got into so I did upper class rapper, and then I did an act called Ludwig the Bavarian, which was this German umpire guy. I always did characters, I guess, because my background was acting, over the top characters. And then real Germans started to turn up on the English circuit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Henning and various others. And so I didn't feel it was, Henning's a great friend of mine, but I didn't feel it was appropriate. He's great. He's great. But I didn't feel it was appropriate to be doing sort of comedy, stereotypical Germans. Now they were real Germans on the circuit. And
I read that you actually compared to the King's Head in Islington.
No, not that. It's the King's Head in Crouch End. Is the one I do. They always get confused. But anyway, and there was this whole thing of, and in those days, of truth. You have to be truthful. This Frank Skinner started all that, and loads of like comedy clubs go, well, I don't like characters. We're not booking characters. I only want straight stand-ups. So I just started comping really as a way of learning to do straight stand-up, and then I found I was quite good at it, and I've just done it ever since.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, this is weird. How did that go to the money thing that you got into? Must have been later, was it?
Yeah, that came in the mid-noughties. And what happened there is I'd made a bit of money from doing voiceovers, and I was looking at how to invest it. But more importantly than that was Dad had written this play called Just Remember Two Things: It's Not Fair and Don't Be Late. And this was a radio play that he'd written in the 80s, all about his experiences as an evacuee in World War II. And it was incredibly successful. It broke all the records. It got more letters than anyone in the BBC drama department could ever remember. And he actually got letters from Germans who'd been evacuated in Germany to escape English bombing or British bombing. Wow. So it was incredible, touched a nerve with millions of people. And it was optioned to be a film, and by Ken Loach and then various others. And it did that thing that films do. It just got stuck in development hell for 15 years. And, one person developed, then they were going to do it, and then something changed, and you know what it's like. Yeah. And so Dad's friend, Dad was mad on golf, and he played golf with this guy called Jeremy James Taylor, who was the founder of the National Youth Music Theatre. You've probably crossed paths with him at some stage. And Jeremy had always been going to Dad, you should turn that thing into a stage musical with loads of kids. And Dad was like, no, it's going to be a film with Ken Loach. And but eventually, one time they were playing golf in North Devon. And they, at the end of the round, the proprietor of the Theatre Royal Barnstaple happened to be in the clubhouse. And he said to them, have you two got a project for me? And they said, well, as a matter of fact, we do. And so the Theatre Royal Barnstaple, because Dad was evacuated to Cornwall, you see, so it's very much of the West Country, this story. Yeah. He evacuated from South East London to Cornwall. And so this was commissioned as a sort of community theatre project in Barnstaple. And another guy who Dad played golf with, a guy called Gordon Clyde, who's no longer with us, who was sort of Dick Emery's sidekick, wrote the music. And so they did this sort of thing, and I went to see it, and this was 2003, 2004, something like that. And I remember I'd been to see The Producers the same week, and The Producers was really good. But, you know, I've had the theatre, probably like you guys, I've had the theatre shoved down my throat since an early age. And a lot of the time I think it's, you know, disappears up its own backside and it's really not very good. But this, and I never quite understood Dad's obsession with the importance of theatre and how good it is, because I just sort of, you know, saw, you know, you'd go and see the Medea or something at the National Theatre and you think, what's the point? But anyway, and, anyway, this absolutely blew me away and I fell head over heels in love with it. And it only ran for a week, and there was 3 or 4 pros in the main parts, a little known Welsh actor by the name of Derek Crew playing the main guy. But apart from that, it was all amateurs and kids, and it just blew me away. And so I was like, this can't just go on for a week in the Theatre Royal Barnstable and then be forgotten about. It's just too good. And everyone was like, we know I've just never seen a show have an impact like this on a room. It just it made you laugh, it made you cry, everything. And so I was like, so we found this guy who was a West End theatre manager, and he worked out the whole budget, and we worked out we needed to raise 3 million quid. So I was like, none of us, and this was, you know, in noughties money, so it'd probably be 2 or 3 times that now. And I was like, how are we going to raise 3 million quid? And I'd been reading about gold and things on the internet myself. And so I had started this podcast. This was just to invest my own money. And I'd started this podcast to interview these clever people that I'd heard talking on the internet, basically to get free financial advice off them. I did it through the means of a podcast. And so I was like, the only way we're going to raise the money to do this is if I can make the money. So I sort of became mad on trying to make then 3 million quid in order to put this show on in the West End. And so I started speculating in gold and gold mining shares. There was a big bull market in all that at the time. And then one of the people that I interviewed on this podcast was a lady called Merrin Somerset Webb, who runs a magazine called Money Week, and she writes for the FT. And she said, oh, we need people like you to come and, people who can talk about money and finance clearly. We need people like you to come and write for us. So I just got this job as a financial writer, and it was just sort of accidental, like everything else is in life. But the main goal was to somehow make enough money that to put on a show in the West End and lose 5 million quid on it, or whatever the figure was, would be, I could lose the 5 million quid and still, not be left totally bankrupt. Do you see what I mean? So in order to lose 5 million quid on a West End project, I guess I needed to be worth 10 million quid or something like that. So that became the whole thing. And then after 2011, the gold market just tanked. It just totally tanked through the floor. So I never managed to make enough money, but I sort of was quite enjoying this new life, writing about finance and so on. But here's the sort of the clincher of the story, if you like, which is that, and I guess the message is podcasts are the new something. After Dad died, I was looking at this project, and I just thought it was just a CD and a script on a shelf. And I was looking at it, and it was put on again in 2013. And by this time, Gordon Clyde had written the music, had died, and there were various other people who'd written the music. But I'd sort of, by this point, had developed, I've always liked lyrics and so on. And I developed a sideline writing comic songs, as you probably know. The first was obviously The Upper Class Rapper, but I've written various other ones, and some of them are quite popular on YouTube. I wrote one about Brexit, was very popular. Anyway, I was looking at, after Dad died a couple of years ago, and I was going, this is just too special to be a CD and a script gathering dust on a shelf. How can I make this happen? And I thought, I can't do a film. It's just too much. I don't have the means. I don't even know how much, 50 million quid or something you'd need to make it. And I can't do a West End thing because it was COVID. And in any case, I didn't have the money to do a West End production. And the problem with doing a West End show is it runs for 8 weeks. It dies on its arse. You lose all your money, and then it's gone and forgotten anyway. So I was thinking, how can I make this thing? And I had this sort of, I'll just turn it into a podcast. I'll do an audio project of it. And I don't know why I didn't think of it 10 years earlier. Yeah. But the guy who I write all my songs with, I said to him, look, we've got this show. About half the songs, the music needs some rewriting. Would you be interested in doing it? And he said to me, oh, well, as a matter of fact, my father was evacuated to Cornwall in World War II as well.
No.
So there was this incredible thing. So we sat down, and this was during the lockdown, and we did the whole thing over Zoom calls. We rewrote about half the music. And then you remember there were those sort of little breaks. You'd have like a month break in the lockdown. And I organized it, and we just started recording it. And I got Jeremy James Taylor to find me a load of kids, and we did a deal with a school that just gave us hundreds of kids. It was quite funny. They could all do the London accent. None of them could do the Cornish accent. But and then, I approached various quite well-known actors. John Owen Jones, you may know, is playing the lead. Katie Seacombe it's a Welsh couple, the main couple who took that in. John Owen Jones and Katie Seacombe. Rosie Cavaliero is playing. She was at university with me, and various others. Good, solid musical actors. And we just recorded this whole thing, and we just kept being blessed with good fortune. So, for example, we found this studio to record the music in. We had a 14-piece orchestra. It's cost me a lot of money to do this, but nothing like 3 million quid. But we found this orchestra. We had a 14-piece orchestra in this studio. Then suddenly they've all got to be 2 meters apart in the thing. And there wasn't the space in the studio for 14 people in the orchestra. You know what I mean? When somebody just goes full COVID on you. And I was like, and this was like 2 days before we were to record the orchestra. And then, this woman was really breaking my balls. So I just phoned up all the other studios I could think of. And I thought, well, I'll start at the top. I'll phone up Abbey Road and see if they've got any availability. And I got a really nice girl on the phone there. And she goes, oh, well, we've got it booked for 3 days. But the guy who's coming over from France to conduct it, he has to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. So we haven't got a conductor. So we think we're going to postpone it. But if you can fill it at short notice, we'll give it to you at cost. So we ended up recording the whole thing at Abbey Road.
Wow.
And then, it's been about 6 months, nearly a year of editing now. But it comes out literally in the next 3 weeks.
Oh,
so the whole
we must publicize it on our show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll be doing every publicity. But so that's the weird thing is I only got into the financial writing really in order to raise the money to make Kisses on a Postcard happen. But we finally made it happen. So
I've got to ask you something. I keep hearing about NFTs. I don't know what they are, but everyone's raving about them and saying it's the new thing, whatever it is. And I've just heard that Emirates are even doing it's like virtual stuff, isn't it?
And also Bitcoin. Sherry was saying that she doesn't understand about Bitcoin.
Yes.
We need a lesson, Dom.
Okay, well,
in 5 minutes. That's the future is owning stuff online, like in the virtual world.
Yeah, it is. Bizarrely, I mean, I don't quite understand it, but people are now trading real estate in the virtual world, and you're like, what? Yeah. But I mean, that is the future, and NFTs are basically art in the virtual world. And, they're a little bit of a bubble, but you always get these bubbles with new technology. Nobody quite understands it. So it's all part of the exploration process. There was a bubble in railways. There was a bubble in the internet. Obviously, there was a bubble in telecoms. You always get bubbles around new technology because everyone gets very excited about it and throws money at it. But yeah, it's basically, I guess NFTs are just art for the virtual world, basically. And as for Bitcoin is just cash. If you differentiate the cash that you have in your pocket from the money you have in your bank account, you think of cash. In other words, nobody else's liability. Bitcoin is cash for the internet. That's all it is. And it's money that's issued by a complicated series of what computer programmers consider genius is a genius stroke of genius because it solved all these dilemmas in computing that nobody thought was possible to solve. But it's basically cash for the internet, and it can't be printed or debased by government. It's open source money for the internet.
Right. And do you think then NFTs is non-fungible tokens?
Yeah. Do you know what fungible means?
No. Tell us.
Okay, so if you had something like gold, if you had a metal, gold or copper or something, an ounce of that gold is any ounce of gold can be exchanged with any other ounce of gold. They're interchangeable. And so for, you can have an ounce of gold in China and an ounce of gold in Canada. It doesn't matter. They're still an ounce of gold. So that is fungible. And so for something to be money, it has to be fungible. So the pound coin that I've got in my pocket is the same as the pound coin that you've got in your pocket is the same as the pound that's in the bank. They're all interchangeable. One is the same as the other. That's what fungible means. The idea of non-fungible tokens is that each one is unique. Each one is different. And that is a non-fungible token.
Right. So like music and art, because that's all got its own DNA, I guess that's why. I mean, I've heard that.
Exactly. That's why it's sort of a way of monetizing the arts.
And also, I've heard some people are earning billions and other people, like, it's bizarre.
Other people are losing billions.
Yeah. It's weird. There's no.
The unfortunate same horrible rules of that apply in show business apply in NFTs, which is that there's hundreds of people all fighting each other to try and get attention and try and get noticed. And the world only takes notice of a handful of them and everyone else goes ignored.
As in life,
as in show business,
and
as in the art world, as in, and so all those same dynamics are still going on, only virtually.
What is the latest new coin to come out? Because after Bitcoin, there have been loads of other things you can invest for 20p, can't you, really?
Yeah, you can. I'm afraid, Debbie, I've got no idea what the latest one is. Like every day there's a new one. There are thousands of them, probably tens of thousands. And I just would not bother.
No,
I would get a Bitcoin wallet and buy, 100 quid's worth or 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin just to familiarize, and you can all practice sending each other. You should all get you get a wallet called Moon, MUUN, and you could and then buy 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin on an exchange somewhere, and then just practice sending each other small amounts of Bitcoin.
Are you suggesting we'd be mooning? Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely. I
want to know if I could be fungible, whether that's possible or not, or is that not appropriate?
I think you're non-fungible.
That's what I would say.
You're unique.
I keep telling you that.
Thank you, dear.
So we're all non-fungible, aren't we?
Every human bit. We're all different, Debbie. We're all different. We're all valuable.
Why are you
None of us are disposable.
Hold on to that.
Why are you in Prague, Dom?
There's some Liberty conference that I was asked to speak at, so I was just speaking about that.
Oh,
I'm going to go on a little. I've never been to Prague before. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Something I learned yesterday, which is quite a nice story, which is that when Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia, or what was Czechoslovakia, he had been a student in Prague, and so he loved Prague, and so he ordered no bombs to be dropped on Prague. And so that's why Prague its historical center is pretty much intact. I think they dropped one bomb by accident and it was intended to be dropped somewhere else. And then when the Russians came, there was a deliberate policy, unlike Ukraine, which has sort of been fighting back. There was a deliberate policy. We can't beat the Russians, so let's just roll over and let them take us as long as they don't damage it. And that's why Prague remains so
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Dom, you've been a fantastic guest, really, really interesting. And we'd love to hear your podcast when it comes out. I'd love to hear it. We all would. So give us the info when you can. And we'll give
I will do. I'll be doing every bit of PR I possibly can. I promise you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling.
To meet you.
See you very soon, I hope.
Thank you so
very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 What an informative time. That was amazing.
That was amazing. Absolutely. Very interesting man. So diverse.
He's done everything.
That's all that matters.
I was going to say, Harriet, does that make you feel good?
I didn't know if it was, I wasn't sure whether it was a diet. I thought I was too fungible. I don't know. I wasn't sure what the word was.
It sounds like squeezy and cuddly, doesn't it?
Yeah, sort of.
Fungible.
Widgy, yes.
Right, well, I'm going to funge off now.
Yes.
Okay, then.
Bye.
And you Friday.
And we'll see you on Friday. Bye.
Bye.